Scott and Puffy. So in this video, the last tutorial for the box and folio project, and I'm going to make a small box with 3 compartments in it that can hold 3 of these small booklets that are really easy and fast to make. So this paper collection that I'm using has 12 signature cards, and that's why I made this project with it. So we are going to start with making the box. For that you are going to need 4 pieces of cardstock. It's all in the cutting guide. You have a piece A, a piece B, and 2 pieces of C. And we are going to start with our 2 pieces of C. So these pieces, they are 8 3/4 by 5 inches, but I've actually cut it like 1/16 under those measurements. So I've put that in the cutting guide. It might be a little bit confusing, but it's just a little bit smaller than the measurements. And then with the 8 3/4 inch side on top, we are going to score it 1/2 inch and 3/4 of an inch. And then I'm turning the piece around and I repeat 1/2 inch and 3/4 of an inch. And I do it this way because it's a little bit smaller and you really want to have that 1/2 inch and that 3/4 of an inch. Then you're going to turn it over to the 5 inch side, and it really doesn't matter what side you do it. And then again you score it 1/2 inch and 3/4 of an inch. And you're going to do the same thing for the other piece C. So with this we are making pockets with a 1/4 inch gusset. Now in order to fold everything we need to cut away the 4 boxes on the bottom corners, and we are going to do it in the way that I'm showing you right here. First we're going to cut with an angle on the first 1/2 inch, and you're going to cut straight on the smallest square, and again at an angle at the 1/2 inch on the bottom. But first I am going to place my double-sided tape so that I have nice coverage of tape after I cut my 1/2 inches. The tape goes on the dented side on all 3 sides between the cut edge and the first 1/2 inch score line. And you only have to place them in between your score lines because you're going to cut away everything else. So do that for both pieces, and then we can make the cuts like I showed you earlier. So I'm cutting at an angle up to my first 1/2 inch score line, then I'm cutting straight. It's a little square box, again angled at the 1/2 inch and straight towards that second intersection. And you will do this on both sides of your C piece. So angled, straight, and from the bottom again angled and then straight. So this is what it should look like. And I'm also going to taper the 1/2 inches on top of these pieces because that will make it, when everything is constructed, it will be easier to get your little booklet in your box. It's less likely that it will catch on these 1/2 inch flaps. So now I'm showing you that I'm folding on all my score lines and how I'm sticking it together. But first you need to make a punch with your envelope punch board, and I will show you that, but I forgot it. So that's something that you need to do before you do this. So here I am folding and burnishing all the fold lines. Also on the side. And then make sure you have all your gussets standing up straight. And then you fold the bottom flap over, and then you can attach it in the corners where they 1/2 inches overlap. So I'm doing this combined with a little bit of wet glue because it doesn't intend to stay in place very good. And so it's a little bit stronger, so I'm making sure that my gussets are standing up, sticking it onto each other and try to hold on for it so the glue can dry. And once you take your time for that and it sticks, then it will stay in place. So just take your time on this process. Of course, you can only use wet glue if you want. I just like to combine the two, in this case at least. So I'm doing the same thing for the other side, and I will repeat this for the second piece C. But again, before you do this, first make your punches with your envelope scoreboard. You want to do that when your piece is flat. So after I've done it, I'm turning it over and try to get some pressure on there with a bone folder. So that's it, and here I just rip my pieces apart again, and I'm lining it up in my envelope punch board, and I will line up the top with a 2 3/8 inch mark, and then turn the piece over and do the same thing on the other side. And you do this for both pieces. And then you can use your paper trimmer to cut away the middle part, but just do it with my ruler and my craft knife here, or my utility knife. I found it gives me a better result actually. It's easier for me to determine where I want to cut. So that gives a nice slit in your pocket and makes it easier to remove your book once everything is complete. So that's why we make this. So when we've constructed both of these pieces, we are going to stick them on top of each other. And to do so, I am going to remove the tape backing from one piece, and then again I'm going to combine it with wet glue so that I have some wiggle time, so that I can get it nicely lined up and where I want it, because you want to have your edges nicely lined up. So I'm just placing wet glue over the double-sided tape so it doesn't stick at the moment that the cardstock hits each other. So I'm just starting with lining up the bottom corners, and without pushing on it or anything, I'm laying it on there, and then I'm trying to get it towards the edges. I was out of frame for that, so just take your time on getting your edges nicely lined up, and when you have so, you can carefully try to burnish, but it's quite difficult because there's nothing to place pressure on. So then we have two compartments of 1/4 inch prepared, and we are going to place that to the side for a sec, but here I'm showing you how my 3 edges are nicely lined up. So now we are on to piece A, and this piece measures 9 1/4 by 9 3/4. And with a 9 1/4 inside and top, I'm going to score at 4 1/4 and 5 inches. And everything is in the cutting guide available at my website scrapandcoffee.com. It's a free PDF download. Then you turn it over to the 9 3/4 inch side, and here I am going to score at 1/2 inch. And then at 1 1/4. And then I turn the piece over and I repeat again. So 1/2 inch and 1 1/4. So for this piece we are also going to make some cuts so that we can construct the box. But first we are going to make the punches with our envelope punch board, and we are going to do that with the 9 3/4 inside on top. So where you have your 1/2 inch and your 1 1/4 inch score line. And you will line your piece up, this time with a 2 7/8 inch mark on both sides again. And then again you just cut away that middle part, however you like to do it, with your paper trimmer, with your craft knife. Just go however you feel comfortable. I'm kind of using my grid here to keep everything straight. I don't know how helpful that was, but I just did it. So I did this directly at the beginning so I couldn't forget. And now I am trying to show you what we are going to cut away. Very important is that on the side where you make your punch marks with the envelope punch board, that's your front, and you want to keep everything on there. So on the other side, the back side, you are going to cut away the 2 side pieces, and on the spine, the middle part, you're going to cut away the 1/2 inch. So I like to do this on the bumpy side so I can use my score line, but also it helps me to see better because I want to cut away the score line. So here I've done one side already, and I'm going to show you on the other side what I did exactly. So again, I'm drawing out what it is that I'm cutting away. So I'm starting, I do the smallest parts with my scissor, but just go however you feel comfortable. With a 1/2 inch on the front side, I'm going to cut it at an angle towards that intersection of the score lines, and then I'm cutting straight towards the second intersection of those score lines. Now I'm folding on the back side, and that helps me because now I can place my ruler up against that score line. So I'm going to cut from the bottom score line, from the 2 horizontal ones, the lowest one. That's where I'm going to start cutting, and I'm going to cut away both the side sections here. So that 3/4 of an inch and that 1/2 inch part from the lowest score line, because you want to keep that spine part intact. And then I'm just cutting straight and doing it with my knife again up to the cut edge so that section can come out. There we go. Now you have that spine on your spine part, that flap, and we're going to cut away that 1/2 inch. And you can just cut away the score line here completely. And then that little flap, we are going to taper the sides just slightly. And then we've cut away everything that we need to cut away in order to make the construction. But I will also be tapering the top flaps, but I will show you later. So we are going to attach the C pieces that we've prepared on the back side of piece A of the construction here, like I'm showing you. But first we have to fold and burnish all our score lines and place some double-sided tape. So please burnish and fold on all your score lines towards the bumpy side like always. And I'm placing my double-sided tape on my 1/2 inch flaps on the front side of the piece. Also on the bumpy side, so this double-sided tape is going on the bumpy side. So it takes quite a few steps, but yeah, then again, at the end of it, I thought it came together pretty easy and pretty quick. So I'm cleaning up my edges here from double-sided tape. And then I had to finish folding and burnishing my score lines. So it's really important that you do that before you attach your C pieces, because it's going to be pretty difficult to do it afterwards. And the sun was getting worse and worse on my desk, and I was actually so focused that I didn't realize it. So I'm sorry in advance for that. I hope it's still, you can still see what I'm doing. So here I am tapering those 1/2 inches. I did it on the top, on the front side. So in order to place our C pieces, I'm going to lay the A piece with the front towards the bottom, towards me, and I am going to place the C pieces on the back side. So here again I'm removing the tape backing on the C pieces and combine it with the wet glue, so I have some wiggle time. Not much, but just enough to get it where I want it. And when you place this, you have the 2 horizontal score lines, and you are going to line it up against the top score line, but you want to see that score line when you place it, and it should fit exactly nicely on that back piece. And that's why we've got these C pieces slightly under the measurements that I gave you. It's so that it's going to fit inside this whole A piece actually, so they are able to stay in between all those score lines. So I'm placing it on the back, checking on the other side if there is not too much overlapping and my gussets are standing up. And once we've done that, I'm trying to burnish it on there. And once we have everything nicely in place, we can fold the front side over. So in order to do so, I am going to place some wet glue as well on the bottom of my C pieces. I do this so it's just a little bit extra secure. And I'm going to stand it up straight onto the spine actually. I'm just holding it there, giving the glue a little bit of time to dry. So here I'm just thinking about, okay, which way am I going to go with this? So now I'm placing glue on the sides of the C pieces as well, and I'm just doing both sides at once so I can keep going. So just on both the gussets, I'm giving it a little stripe of wet glue. You don't need much, it's just to secure it a little bit extra. I suggest you don't put the wet glue on your spine part of the A piece because you need a little bit of that space in there, so you don't want to have the glue where there's no attachment. So when you fold this over, and I will show you on the other side a little bit more clear what I'm doing, but you want to line up the 1/2 inch score line with the back side of your piece, so you have a 1/4 inch of a gusset actually in between on the front of your piece. So when you line this up, you want to line up the 1/2 inch score line with the back of your piece and try to get it all straight and lined up. So yeah, the video is a little bit darker because of the sun, and I'm so sorry about it. So here I'm trying to show you that 1/2 inch score line, you want to have it lined up with the back side. And then carefully fold it over. And here I had to do it again because my gusset wasn't completely standing up completely straight, so luckily I was in time to get it loose. And if you've done it right, you should have 3 compartments in here, each with a quarter of an inch gusset. So the last thing we need to do is, oh yeah, here I'm showing you that the booklet, I've made one booklet already, will fit in there in one of the compartments. So you can place 3 of these booklets in this little box. So now we have to make a closure, and for that we have our B piece that measures 8 inches by 3 1/4. And on the 8-inch side you want to score at 7 1/4. Yeah, 7 1/4. And then turn your piece counterclockwise. And then you are going to score at 1/2 inch and at 1 1/4. So you want to have your first score line made on top of your piece now. So here again we have to make some cuts. We are going to cut away on the bottom right side and the top right box. Those 2 boxes we are going to cut away. And at 1/2 inch again we are going to taper. But first we place our tape again on the bumpy side of the piece, between the cut edge and the 1/2 inch score line on the longer side. And you only have to go up until that score line that you made at 7 1/4. So then we can make those cuts. So I am going to taper that 1/2 inch. So I'm going to cut with an angle up to that first intersection. And then on the other side I'm going to cut straight. You can cut the score line away here. So again, I'm just doing it on the bumpy side because it's a little bit easier for me to see the score line and where I can cut. So that's the first piece that we are removing. And then here again, because I'm going to cut over a little bit of a longer piece. Oh sorry, first I'm going to cut straight on my second score line. And then this piece I'm going to do with my knife because I just find it gives me a better result. So I'm bumping up my ruler up against my score line. And I'm going to cut, but I will stop at the first score line that I see. So what we have is actually just a little flap on the side that will stay there. And then I'm going to angle taper that other side of the 1/2 inch. So now in order to make that offset closure like we've been doing for the whole project, it's a thing that just keeps coming back. We are going to make some pencil marks, and the first one is at 4 7/8 of an inch from the left bottom corner. And on the sides we are going 3/4 from the second score line on both sides. So then you can connect your pencil marks if you want, and if you don't want, you don't really have to. I'm not doing it here. I'm getting my paper trimmer in and I'm just going to cut from tick mark to tick mark to create that angle. So again, just finding the tick marks and lining them up with my paper trimmer and then just cut. And then we have that offset angle again. Remove your pencil marks that you're still able to see. And the little flap that I have on the left here is actually so I can attach a little handle on this box, which is totally optional, of course. Yeah, I'm just folding and burnishing my score lines like I always do. But I'm also going to round the corners of the little flap, and that's also just optional. Oh yeah, my pencil mark of my letter was on my fold, so it was important for me to remove it because I'm not going to cover that up with pattern paper. So I'm not able to use a corner rounder on this little flap, so I'm just going to find something with a round edge, and in this case the thing closest by was my glue bottle. And I'm just going to use that to trace a little round edge, but you can also just cut from hand or just leave it square. Everything is fine, however you like it. And I was trying to be way too precise here, which was totally unnecessary. And then I'm just cutting it with my scissors. I just like it when it's a little bit rounded. I think it's also a little bit less risk of it getting damaged. So first I'm going to place pattern paper on there, but I don't know what pattern paper I'm going to use at this moment. And after I've done that, I'm going to place a little eyelet in there. And then I have these little hooks that I bought on Amazon. And I'm just going to attach a little handle on there that I've made out of cardstock and Tyvek. And then yeah, you can make it a little purse thing that you can bring with you if you want. So we are going to place this closure on the back side of our box that we've constructed. And again, you are just lining it up on the back, lining it up with the sides, and make sure that you're still able to see your score line. I removed the tape backing partially, and when I have it where I want it, I can carefully remove the rest. And I'm just doing it in parts, so I'm really sure that the whole piece is where I want it. And then I can give that a burnish. And then again, I will be using a magnet to keep this closed. I've showed you, I think, on all the closures that have a magnet how I did that. But on this one, you're not really able to put any pressure on the magnet on the box itself. So to solve that, I've used a little bit of wet glue, and I will show you how I did that. So carefully remove the tape backing if you have that on your magnet. First one I'm going to place on the closure, on the lid, however you want to call it, not too close to the edge. Place the other one on top. And first I've tried it without the wet glue, but I knew that the chances were slight that was going to work. So, well, you know, you try it anyway. But you're not able to put pressure on it so your magnet will stick. So that didn't work. So to solve it, I've placed a little bit of wet glue on my magnet, and you just need a little one because you just want to make a mark on where your magnet needs to go. So again, nicely lined up, close it, and then you have a stamp with your wet glue, and that's where you want to place your magnet. So I had a little bit of trouble getting my magnets come off of each other. So then you just place it, and now I can put my finger in the pocket so I can put pressure on the magnet and have it where I want it. Once I've placed them, I just place a little bit of double-sided tape over it so I'm sure that they stay in place. And then our box is finished. Well, the construction part of it at least. And here my double-sided tape was going a little bit too close to the edge, so I just cut it a little shorter. And that's it, done. So now I will show you how you can make the booklets. It's really easy. I just have 5 pieces of cardstock and I attach them with eyelets. But you need bigger pieces, and I've decided to show you how I use the pinwheel to make these pieces. And I'm going to do this at 7 1/4 inch. So I'm lining up my cardstock at 7 1/4. And I'm going to start cutting at 7 1/4. And I can see that on my blade part of the paper trimmer. So I'm pushing the blade in, cut upwards. Then I'm going to turn the piece counterclockwise, lining it up with that 7 1/4 again. And again, just cut from the 7 1/4. Push my blade in and cut upwards, and then you have your first large piece out of your 12 by 12 inch cardstock, and then repeat, turn counterclockwise, cut at 7 1/4. Sorry, line it up at 7 1/4 and start cutting at 7 1/4. And then your second piece will come out. And then one more time you turn your piece counterclockwise. And then you can just cut from the bottom up to the top. So this will give me 4 large pieces of cardstock out of my 12 by 12. And that's the scrap that I have. So it saves you in cardstock, but not in time, because you have to make some extra cuts. Now the pieces needed to be 7 by 4 1/4, so you can also do this pinwheel with 7 inch. But I do it with 7 1/4, so it gives me the opportunity to clean up my edges, because I don't find that the cuts with a smaller trimmer give me a nice cut. So here I'm cutting it to size, so you need to cut your pieces to size after you've done the pinwheel. That's the downfall of it, but I don't mind. So I'm cutting all my pieces to size 7 inch by 4 1/4. So you need 5 of these pieces for every booklet you want to make. So I made 3, so I needed 15 pieces. After I've cut all my pieces to size, I'm going to line it up on my scoreboard, and with the 7 inch on top, you need to score at 3/4 of an inch. Now it's a little bit easier for me to do that on the other side, so I'm scoring at 6 1/4 for all those pieces. So once we've done that, you're gonna fold and burnish on your score lines, and I'm folding and burnishing starting towards the bumpy side, and then I also give the fold towards the dented side. So again, you do that for all your pieces, and then for one piece I've prepared 2 strips that measured 5/8 of an inch by 4 inches. And on your front piece you are going to place one of these strips between the cut edge and your score line. I'm just using a little bit of wet glue here. I think the edges. And for these booklets I'm really trying to use up my scrap pieces of paper. So that's the front. Give it a quick burnish. And then you're going to take your back piece and you are going to place the other strip again between the cut edge and the score line on the back of the piece. So again, just give it a quick burnish, and then once you've done that, you are going to place your pieces together again, so make sure that one piece with a strip is the front and the other one is the back. And then we have to determine where we want to place our eyelets. So I'm getting my front piece here, and I am centering my ruler. And so the pieces are 4 1/4, so you want to line it up with the edges at 2 1/8 of an inch, and then the 0 will be in the middle. And then I'm going 1 1/4 from that 0. So I'm going 1 1/4 from the center of the piece, and I'm eyeballing that I'm in the middle in the other direction. So just make a pencil mark, and I'm just going to punch all these pieces at once with my crocodile. I'm using small eyelets, so I'm using the 1/8 inch punch hole, but just look whatever eyelet you have and make sure that you have the right punch for it. So I'm really trying to line up these pieces, and I know I'm going to have to place everything down after I made my first punch, so I'm going to use some clips to keep these pieces nicely lined up and together. That was really helpful. And then I'm going to punch my first hole on the pencil mark that I've made, and my crocodile goes easily through these layers, no problem at all. But I have to get all those little layers of paper out of my crocodile. And after I've done that, you can punch the second hole. And if I didn't have my clips on here, I know that my papers would not be lined up anymore. So that's why the clips are really easy. And then you can place your eyelets through the holes. Now sometimes it worked for me to just place them just like this, push them through all the 5 layers of cardstock, but that doesn't work every single time. So sometimes you just have to do it like 1 or 2 pages at a time, but yeah, just try to push it through. And once you have them both in there, you can set them. Just making sure that everything is how I want it. Set the first one, and then again I just check everything and set the second one. And then you have a booklet. That's all that is to it. Really easy. So what I do is open it up and re-burnish my folds on the cardstock, because it's not going to work nicely with you in the after you've used it a couple of times. It won't lay really flat on your surface, but when you hold it in your hand, it works perfectly. So just re-burnish those folds. And then, like I showed you in the beginning, I'm just going to place, oh yeah, you can use it in both directions. It doesn't really matter, because there are a couple of cards that are landscape direction and a couple of cards that are portrait directions, and you can use this booklet both. Your construction will be exactly the same. You just place your cards in the other direction. So I'm going to place a card on one side and a photo opportunity on the other side, so you can have like a signature of your favorite character and a photo with you and that character on the other side, and I think it would be pretty fun. So I'm going to make that handle on there so you can bring this with you when you go to the park and get it out if you want to have a signature or something. It will be fun for like a teenage kid to have these. Yeah, the paper collection had these cards in there, and I just thought it was fun to do something with it. So when I'll be back, I will show you all the projects that we've made, and I want to thank you for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day.